Part 3 of our gluten assessment shows pretty nice texture here of the bread on the white, which is that white wheat bread that we made. And if you look really closely, you're going to see really nice air pockets in there. So remember, those air pockets were created by the yeast. And again, what were those bubbles made out of during anaerobic respiration? Yep, they're made out of CO2, and of course some ethanol was created in that as well. So this bread tasted pretty bitter, and you can see what nice texture. It was light and flaky texture associated with the wheat loaf. And that's what we'd expect. And here's why, guys. The standard white flour sold on the market these days is about 12% gluten. And so that correlates really nicely with some sweetness and less dense bread, meaning nice and light and flaky. You can see those wonderful bubbles that were trapped in there. Now let's just do a bird's eye view here of the corn. Corn is a grain from the Poaceae, just like wheat. However, guess what? Do you see nice CO2 bubbles that were trapped in here? No, you really don't, right? It doesn't have that same light and flaky texture with the bread on the right here, the whole wheat. Why is that? It still had yeast, still had sugar, still had all the same exact identical ingredients, except for the fact that corn lacks, what's the name of that protein again? It lacks gluten, right? And gluten is responsible for helping those breads rise by essentially gluing in those CO2 bubbles emitted by the yeast, right? And while all people that I subjected to taste testing today agreed that this bread here on the right had a much more favorable texture, a lot of the people that were tested today preferred the flavor of the corn because they happen to prefer corn flavor. But I can tell you, as somebody that's very experienced with bread making, that a really nice high quality wheat bread has the ideal level of sweetness and the lesser density that makes it the most favorable bread flour in the world.